This isn't just a parking ticket. A 10-year-old girl just challenged how justice works. Sophia's words stunned Judge Caprio and the courtroom. Her innocence exposed deep truths about fairness, poverty, and law. Stay tuned, because what follows isn't courtroom drama, it's a masterclass in real justice.
Your Honor, my mom told me to tell you that parking meters are just suggestions for poor people. Judge Frank Caprio's jaw drops. The courtroom erupts. Court officers freeze mid-step. The gallery gasps audibly. A 10-year-old girl stands before America's most beloved judge, completely oblivious to the chaos she just unleashed. What happens next will leave you speechless. When 10-year-old Sophia Martinez walked into Providence Municipal Court that Tuesday morning, nobody expected her to deliver one of the most memorable lines in the court's history. Not the bailiffs who'd seen thousands of cases. Not the court reporters who'd transcribed decades of testimony. And definitely not Judge Frank Caprio himself.
Sophia speaks with fearless honesty. She isn't rehearsed, isn't polished. She's real. When a child explains poverty in open court, it hits harder than any lawyer. The truth here is simple. Sometimes kids see fairness more clearly than adults. Would you want your child explaining justice this way?
Who thought he'd heard every excuse in the book. But sometimes the most profound truths come from the most innocent voices. Judge Caprio was handling his usual morning docket: parking violations, minor infractions, the routine cases that make up the backbone of municipal court. He'd already processed 17 cases before 10 a.m., each one blending into the familiar rhythm of urban justice. Traffic citations, expired registrations, the endless parade of citizens trying to navigate a system they barely understood. Then Sophia's case was called. The bailiff announced Martinez versus
Parking meters are just suggestions for poor people. The courtroom laughs, but this line lands heavy. She's right. Money means different things for rich and poor. Equality isn't always fairness. That's the tension Sophia exposes in one bold sentence. Suddenly, a $45 fine feels like a societal problem.
City of Providence. Case number 2024, TR 5847. But instead of an adult stepping forward, a small figure in a bright yellow dress walked up to the defendant's table. Sophia Martinez, accompanied by her visibly nervous mother, Maria, approached the bench with the kind of confidence only children possess. Judge Caprio looked down from his elevated seat, his expression softening as it always did when children appeared in his courtroom. In his 38 years on the bench, he'd learned that cases involving minors required a different kind of wisdom: part legal expertise, part grandfatherly guidance. Good morning.
Sophia's truth cuts deep. $2 means no milk. This isn't theory, it's survival. Families shouldn't face impossible choices over parking meters. Judge Caprio pauses, realizing this case has moved beyond law into humanity. Fines that ignore poverty don't just punish, they reveal how unfair justice can be.
Morning, young lady, Judge Caprio said, his voice gentle but curious. Are you here with your mother today? Sophia nodded enthusiastically, her pigtails bouncing. Yes, Your Honor. Mommy got a ticket for parking, and she said I should come explain because I was there when it happened. The court reporter looked up from her stenotype machine. This was unusual. Children occasionally appeared in family court or as witnesses, but rarely did they serve as character witnesses for parking violations. Judge Caprio leaned forward, intrigued. And what exactly would you like to explain to the court, Miss Martinez? But nobody in that courtroom was prepared for what came next. Not even Judge Caprio, who thought his 4 decades of
Sophia proposes fairness. Rich pay more, poor pay less. That's progressive taxation explained through school lunches. Simple, relatable, powerful. The gallery reacts because a child just solved a debate. Politicians argue endlessly. Maybe justice doesn't need complexity. Maybe it just needs common sense, and Sophia has plenty of it.
Legal experience had prepared him for anything. Sophia straightened her shoulders and looked directly at Judge Caprio with the unwavering eye contact only children can maintain. Your Honor, my mom told me to tell you that parking meters are just suggestions for poor people. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Judge Caprio's eyes widened behind his glasses. His mouth opened slightly, processing what he'd just heard. The court officers exchanged glances, unsure whether to laugh or intervene. Maria Martinez turned bright red, her face burning with embarrassment, as she realized her private comment to her daughter had just become public record in a court of law. I didn't. Maria stammered, but Judge Caprio raised his hand gently. Please, Mrs. Martinez, let your daughter finish. His voice carried a mixture of amusement and professional curiosity. Sophia, can you tell me more about what your mother meant by that? Sophia nodded seriously, completely unaware of the sensation she just caused. Well, Your Honor, Mommy works 2 jobs, and sometimes we don't have quarters for the meter. She said,
Her radical idea, trust people, an honest-based parking system. Adults scoff at the thought, but Sophia sees truth. Most people want to do right. Her wisdom flips courtroom assumptions. Maybe distrust is the problem, not citizens. Could a society built on trust really work? Or are we too afraid?
Rich people don't care about paying for parking because $2 is like 2 cents to them. But for us, $2 means we can't buy milk that day. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Caprio removed his glasses and cleaned them slowly, a habit he developed over decades when he needed a moment to think. This wasn't just about a parking violation anymore. This 10-year-old had inadvertently opened a window into one of the most pressing issues in urban America, the intersection of poverty and municipal law enforcement. Sophia, Judge Caprio said carefully, did your mother actually tell you to say that parking meters are suggestions for poor people? The girl shook her head. No, Your Honor. She said that to me when we were walking to the store. She didn't know I was going to tell you. I just thought you should know why we couldn't pay the meter that day. What's...
Maria confesses, $2 meant bus fare. The law doesn't see context, but people live in it every day. Suddenly, the fine feels absurd. Breaking the law wasn't selfish. It was survival. Sophia forces the court to confront this truth. When rules ignore reality, justice stops being justice.
Sophia said next would not only change her family's life, but also spark a conversation that would reach far beyond the walls of Providence Municipal Court. Your Honor, Sophia continued with the matter-of-fact tone children use when stating obvious truths. My teacher, Mrs. Johnson, says that judges are supposed to be fair. If parking meters cost money that some people don't have, how is that fair? Wouldn't it be more fair if rich people paid more and poor people paid less? Like when we buy lunch at school. Some kids get free lunch and others pay full price. Judge Caprio felt something shift in his chest. In 38 years on the bench, he'd heard thousands of legal arguments from seasoned attorneys.
Judge Caprio admits, equal treatment isn't always fair. That's groundbreaking. Equality without compassion isn't justice, it's punishment. Sophia, a 10-year-old, made a seasoned judge rethink decades of rulings. Sometimes, wisdom doesn't come from law books. It comes from unexpected voices. And here, it came from a child.
Listen to complex constitutional challenges and nuanced interpretations of municipal law. But this 10-year-old's simple question cut to the heart of something he'd been grappling with his entire career: the unequal impact of law enforcement on different economic classes. The gallery began to murmur. Court officers looked at each other with raised eyebrows. Even the court reporter seemed to slow her typing, as if she wanted to savor each word. Sophia, Judge Caprio said, leaning forward with genuine interest, what do you think would happen if we followed your suggestion? If we made parking cost different amounts for different people? Sophia thought for a moment, her face scrunched in concentration. Well, Your Honor, I think more people would actually pay. Right now, my mom says some people just don't pay because they can't afford to. But if they could afford it, they would pay because most people want to follow the rules. Judge Caprio felt a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. And how would we know who should pay more and who should pay less? Easy, Sophia replied with the enthusiasm of a child solving a puzzle. You could ask them when they apply for their driver's license. Rich people probably wouldn't lie about having money, and poor people probably wouldn't lie about being poor because being poor isn't fun. A laugh escaped from someone in the gallery. Then another. Soon, a wave of gentle laughter rippled through the courtroom, but it wasn't mocking. It was the
Colored parking meters, green, yellow, red. A child's idea, but visionary. Rich pay more, poor pay less. Fairness in plain sight. What economists complicate, Sophia simplifies. It's policy through imagination, not bureaucracy. Would you support a system like this? One that admits wealth should carry more responsibility.
Kind of laughter that comes from recognizing an unexpected truth. Share this video if you think Judge Caprio's response will surprise you. Hit subscribe to see how this case changes everything. Comment below with your own thoughts on what 10-year-old Sophia just proposed. Judge Caprio looked down at the case file in front of him. Maria Martinez had been cited for parking at an expired meter outside a pharmacy. The fine was $45, a standard penalty that probably seemed routine when it was written. But now, seen through the eyes of a 10-year-old who understood that $45 could mean choosing between parking legally and buying groceries, the case felt different. Mrs. Martinez, Judge Caprio said, addressing Sophia's mother directly for the first time, can you tell the court about your circumstances on the day you received this citation? Maria Martinez looked nervous, glancing between her daughter and the judge. Your Honor, I was picking up medication for my elderly mother. The pharmacy is in a busy area, and all the free parking was taken. I put money in the meter, but I didn't have enough for the full time I needed to wait for the prescription. How much time did you pay for? Judge Caprio asked. 30 minutes, Your...
Why not ask the people? Sophia's mic drop moment. Politicians debate, consult, delay. She suggests something revolutionary. Direct democracy. Leaders fear such simplicity, but maybe truth lies in asking communities directly. Judge Caprio and council members knew she was right. Sometimes, governance isn't about experts, it's about listening.
Your Honor, but the prescription took almost an hour to fill because they had to call the doctor about something. And how much would it have cost to pay for the full hour? Maria hesitated. $2, Your Honor. Judge Caprio nodded slowly. And you didn't have $2 that day? I had the $2, Your Honor, but... Maria's voice trailed off, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. But what, Mrs. Martinez? But I needed that $2 for bus fare to get home. I had to choose between parking legally and having a way to get my daughter and my mother's medication home safely. The courtroom was quiet again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. It was the silence of recognition, of understanding that comes when abstract policy meets human reality. Sophia looked up at her mother with surprise. Mommy, you never told me that part. Judge Caprio felt something profound happening in his courtroom. This wasn't just about a parking ticket anymore. It was about dignity, about the impossible choices that people with limited resources face every day, about the unintended consequences of laws designed without considering their impact on different economic classes. But what Judge Caprio did next shocked everyone in the courtroom, including the seasoned court officers who thought they'd seen everything. Judge Caprio stood up from his bench, something he rarely did during hearings. The courtroom fell silent as he walked around to the front of his desk, positioning himself at eye level with Sophia. Sophia, he said, you've taught me something important today. You've reminded me that fairness is...
Sophia's message is timeless. Rules should help, not hurt. A parking ticket became a lesson in justice, fairness, and compassion. If a child can see this clearly, what excuse do adults have? Share your thoughts, like this video, and subscribe for more courtroom moments that reveal bigger truths.
It isn't just about applying the same rule to everyone. It's about understanding how those rules affect different people differently. He turned to address the entire courtroom. Ladies and gentlemen, in my 38 years as a judge, I've seen thousands of cases. I've tried to be fair, to follow the law, to treat everyone equally. But this young lady has shown me that equal treatment isn't always the same as fair treatment. The court reporter's fingers flew across her machine, capturing what she sensed was becoming a significant moment in the court's history. Mrs. Martinez, Judge Caprio continued, I'm dismissing this citation. But more than that, I want to do something that I've never done before in my courtroom. He walked over to his desk and picked up his phone. Bailiff Martinez, he said to one of his court officers, please contact the city council office and ask them to send a representative down here. I want to discuss this case with them. The gallery began to buzz with excitement. Judge Caprio was known for his compassion, but this was unprecedented. Your Honor, Maria Martinez said, tears welling in her eyes. You don't need to do all that. You've already been more than kind. Mrs. Martinez, your daughter has identified a real problem with how we enforce parking laws in this city. If a 10-year-old can see the inequity in our system, then we adults have a responsibility to address it. He turned back to Sophia. Young lady, Would you like to help me write a letter to the mayor? Sophia's eyes lit up with excitement. Really, Your Honor? Can I really help? I think the mayor needs to hear from someone who understands fairness as clearly as you do. Hit that subscribe button now because what happens next will restore your faith in the justice system. Leave a comment telling us what you think should happen to parking laws. This story is just getting